Hey, welcome to the video. This one's got a couple parts, but chronicles the month leading up to the Battle of Bridgetown, a 700-point tournament held in the Pacific Northwest. First we'll look at bases, then the list, go through painting, a showcase, and finally, games. It's longer form than what I usually do, but I hope you enjoy it. Hobbits are kinda silly. They eat 6 meals a day, they live in little holes in the ground, and they don't believe in shoes. The fact you can play them in a wargame at all is hilarious, so after learning the game with Angmar, one of the stronger factions available, I thought I'd try out something a little different. I thought I'd try to make Hobbits the meta. So I was cutting them all one by one, and I started getting lazy. When I get lazy, I want to do things quicker. I'm already taking so many shortcuts, but I took another one. I just glued them all to the back of one sheet, and I'm now going to take scissors and cut them out. So, seems like it worked. Quick aside about these scissors. I'm pretty sure they're stolen. They either belong to Lids, an old roommate of mine, or possibly my mom. Either way, I didn't mean to take them, but they're serving me well. So, if either of you happen to watch this video, hopefully you have some better ones by now. And, my bad. Alright, so we've talked about the models, we've apologized for scissors. What about the list? For our leader, we went with Meriadoc, Captain of the Shire. D5, 2 attacks and a shield. He's about as sturdy as you get with Hobbits. The real reason you bring him, though, are the battling brandy bucks. 5 points for strength 3 with an axe gives your hobbits much more punching power than they would have otherwise. Next, we have Farmer Maggot, who I think is a must-take. His dogs give you 3 movement 8 pieces, and you kinda get them for free if you look at his profile. Plus, Maggot has 2 attacks at strength 3 with a 2-handed pick, so he's just about as killy as you get in the list. Speaking of killy, Wholefoot gives sheriffs around him burly, which is kind of funny for strength 2 pieces, but does also help with wounding. Then of course, Sam and Rosie are great for free heroic combats. I find these combats are key to winning the battle line, as it gives hobbits a lot more speed than they would have otherwise. Finally, Will Whitfoot, the mayor of Hobbiton. It's a cheap 6-inch banner. Banners are always useful, and he's got a point of might, so you also get something there. Last but not least, what kind of pulls everything together, Haldir and his elf warband. These are allied in from Lothlorien. It really gives hobbits the edge in combat. With fight 5 and 6, you'll be winning most duels against warriors, and you'll even be able to threaten some mid-tier heroes. 14 spears means, likely, if you position well, you're going to have firefight all across the line. I think by the end of it, I had just under 100 models to paint, including those I didn't bring to the tournament. This was a slog. I didn't want to use contrast paints as I didn't like the way it looked in the test models that I did, so I busted out the acrylics and went to work. To help keep me sane, I drove to a local game store and painted there a couple of the days. The conversations helped me get through the batches, and I even made a friend or two. In the end, I'm happy I got them done, but I do think I'll do at least one more pass on them in the future. Painting is the part I struggle with the most in the hobby, so more practice will be good. Alright, so every model here was made using the Printing Goes Ever On customizer app, unless it was a specific sculpt like Mary or Sam. It's a very cool tool, highly recommend it. I can't imagine doing this army any other way. I learned a lot about how the army works this weekend. Game 1, I made the mistake of letting my opponent place Mary's warband, which put him in the corner where he just couldn't get back to the fighting fast enough. I also didn't push onto the objective like I should have, falling for the allure of +1 to wound for shooting, the game ending in a loss. Game 2 was Reconnoiter versus Bears, and I was super confident going into this one. I did not realize, however, how slow Movement 4 really was. Without March, it takes a hobbit 12 turns to get from one side of the board to the other, and with 2 marches, you shave that down to 10. If I had done the math a little earlier, I would have played different, but ni modo. Game 3, I had the shooting advantage, but didn't use it like I should have. I also fed Mary to Golvar, which probably cost me the win. Still, I managed to tie, and the solo violinist here beat Gully in a 1v1. Even managed to deal a wound. Game 4 was against Return of the King Legendary Legion. Here, I was able to take advantage of him splitting up his force, and the Hobbits struggled their way through with the 6x5s needed to wound. Haldir, while no match for Aragorn 1v1, does a pretty good job fighting him when he's got an army of Hobbits piling in. First victory of the event. Finally, destroy the supplies versus another bear player. This came down to bows. Shot at D4 warriors from a distance and took advantage of a gap so the bears could only eat one hobbit at a time. Game ended in a win. Overall, very fun event. I think the hobbits performed well, and I have some adjustments to make in my play. As for the list, it works. There are some tweaks I can make, some tweaks I will make for sure. For example, adding a Gladrum Knight or two would help make up for how slow hobbits are, and give Sam another option to bounce for heroic combats. Speaking of heroes, for my hero lineup, I'm not as sure. I think I'm well over the numbers, so dropping a couple hobbits isn't a bad idea. For example, I could swap the Mare for Frodo, and get that 6-inch banner every turn. I could also look to drop Wholefoot and bring in Pippin or maybe Baldo for traps. I'll have to play with the army some more to figure that out. I just didn't feel like Wholefoot added too much the battling Brandybucks don't already do. Though I don't think I positioned him well enough to succeed either, so I'm going to have to play it some more. Regardless, hobbits are not yet the meta, but the dream is alive and well. So I'll keep practicing with them, and I'm going to work on putting together a display board. It's not something I've done before, but it could be fun to win Best Army at one of these. Anyway, more updates to come. I'll see you in the next one.